So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I'm Leah, for those who I don't know. I am the General Manager of Sask Outdoors, and Sask Outdoors is pleased to be presenting this webinar with Nicole this afternoon. Nicole is a teacher with Eco Justice in Saskatoon. And I think over the summer, she received some money from the McDowell Foundation through the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation to put together this outdoor learning resource. And it's beautiful and wonderful. And we thought sometimes resources are not that dynamic on paper or on your screen. And so having the person who is passionate and knowledgeable about them give a little presentation can bring some life to them and help you navigate them as you use them in your own practices. So we don't want to spend a lot of time on introductions. So I'm going to turn over the talking to Nicole. She's going to do her bit for about 45 minutes, and then we'll stick around for another 15 or however many minutes are needed if there are any questions. And if you have questions or comments throughout, you're welcome to use the chat. I know she's going to use the chat a bit in her presentation as well. With that, I'll let Nicole take it away.
Right, so we're a small group today, which is kind of nice. I'm hoping to speed through this. I know that teachers are busy and have lots of things to do, so I'll try to hit the highlights and then we'll get moving. One thing I was hoping, if we would humor me, if people could turn their cameras on. I know this is always a dreaded request, but I'm home alone with an infant all the time, and I would like to see other friendly faces and adults that I could get some feedback from. If you are on your phone, if you are grading math papers, if you are doing whatever, I don't care. If you would be so obliged, that'd be great. If you are uncomfortable turning your phone on or your camera on, that's okay too. And it looks like most people are muted. Yeah, I will ask you just keep it muted unless you keep yourself muted unless you have a comment to make, then feel free to unmute yourself. And the resources, I am going to be sending out the actual hard copies. There's 2 versions at the end, probably of the meeting or maybe tonight. I'll send them out in an email. So you will receive them. You can download them onto your computer. They're in PDF forms. Okay, so I'm assuming you're all here because you have some interest in getting outside. And I did put a few highlights here on this intro page about why we want to get outside, but I'm sure you are familiar. Lots of benefits to getting outside with our students. So let's carry on. It's been a while. I do want to take a second though to recognize that the work that I do with students outside is not possible if we're not for the original inhabitants of this land sharing the space with people like my family, which are settlers. And so I am conscious of the fact that I'm a treaty person and I work pretty hard to show reciprocity and respect to the spaces that I visit in Treaty 6 territory and traditional homeland of the Métis. As Leah mentioned, I am with Eco Justice, a grade 8 outdoor ed program here in Saskatoon, outdoor learning, social justice focused. And I am on maternity leave this year, so technically not a teacher there at the moment, but I still call myself that. And just some background to the resource itself. I put it together as part of an action. Well, sorry, it's a bit of a backstory here. I was doing my master's. I had an action research project where I worked with teachers, brainstorming ways to get outside more often and overcoming kind of the hurdles that we face. And one of the things that was brought up was this idea of a one-stop shop for all your outdoor learning needs. And so, as Leah mentioned, I was able to get some funding through McDowell Foundation to put that resource together. It was actually, I think it's been a couple of summers now. Honestly, my timeline's all skewed with COVID and maternity leaves and so on, but it's been done for a little while. And so that was the idea, was that putting all the kind of tips and tricks and locations and resources and gear all in one spot so that teachers wouldn't have to kind of scrounge too far to find the things that they're looking for. And so that's how this was created. So the slides, I'll just backtrack for a second, that have the wood background, that's just the presentation for today. I've embedded the presentation within the resource itself. So now we're getting into the resource, but anytime you see a wood page, that's not actually in the resource. That's just part of my presentation. So I do have the presentation available in the PowerPoint format, which I saved as a PDF. And then the links, it's all hyperlinks. So you can easily navigate between the slides. And then there is another format that I also had a graphic designer put together for me, which is linked on this first page I will also email it as well. It's the same information. It's just kind of in more of a reader format. I'll just show you briefly here. It's in a PDF, but it looks kind of more like a guidebook. It's very snazzy. I didn't do this though. Well, at least not the graphics. It was a graphic designer, again, that was made possible from the McDowell Foundation funding. So kind of all the same stuff that we're going to talk about today. It's all organized here. This one is nice to look at. I find it maybe a little bit tougher to navigate if you want to quickly jump to something, but it would be easier to print this out. Anyways, there's benefits to the different formats, and I will send you both. This one I will mention, I did specifically have Greater Saskatoon Catholic Schools teachers in mind. It won't really affect you too much if you're not a teacher in that school. Honestly, you probably could use 90% of the information and resources if you're anywhere in Saskatchewan. There's just a few things, like I talk about division resources. Clearly that's not pertinent to you, or division sites. Those things aren't pertinent, but everything else would be. All the resources and well, I guess locations would not be relevant if you're not from Saskatoon, but the large majority of it would be. So that is that. And carrying on. So there are 6 main areas that I included in the resource. The first 2, getting started in planning an excursion, are kind of proactive problem solving. They give tips and tricks to make outdoor learning go a little bit smoother. So getting started is kind of setting up for success advice, and then planning an excursion is obviously specific to planning an excursion, but it gives you some ways of, you know, cutting down on costs or streamlining the process of getting a field trip going. And then the other areas are pretty self-explanatory as well here, but we got, interesting, locations around Saskatoon that have been highlighted, gear, so things you may want to pack, or things you may want to have in your classroom that ready to go for going outside. Resources are things that have already been created that are available freely on the internet, might be websites or field guides or whatnot, and lots of good stuff there actually. And so I tried to compile it all in this one spot so that it was easier for people to find. And activities are specific activities for outdoor learning that are linked to grades, that are linked to curriculum. I know that's always a concern. How can we go outside? We got to cover curriculum. Well, this is in my way of showing you, this is a way of showing you how to get both going outside and covering curriculum. And then the other thing I should mention, there we go, that all of the icons are hyperlinks. So the home, it would take you back to this homepage. This section has these mushrooms. So if you want to get back to the main page for for getting started, you would click the mushroom. And sometimes the icons also hyperlink to external documents that I have stored on my Google Drive. Or they might be websites on the internet. So just keeping in mind that all these little icons are hyperlinks. Okay, so I'm hoping people are there. I see black screens, but I was going to get you to help me think of some reasons why teachers are unable to or are kind of challenged at getting outside. That was the whole basis of the Action Research Group. That's where we started. What are the things that are stopping people and how can we get around them, or stopping teachers? So if you would humor me, if you would just put in the chat, if you could even think of one thing that becomes a barrier for getting outdoor learning, we'll just post it in the chat and we'll see if we're kind of all thinking the same thing that I imagine we probably are. Oh, Nick's got no webcam. It's all good, Nick. At least I know you're there. So I'll give you 1 minute and see if people would come up with some reasons why you would not be able or be slowed down or limited in taking your student outside. Curtis, are you wanting to?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, I have dogs and kids around me. I'm at home with my 4, so it's a little
wild. It's all
good. I will try to comment. This is the document that we received in the fall from our school division. Is this right?
Yes. That's true. I forgot it was sent out through the school division. It's also available on the GSCS like home portal. Yeah. And
it's amazing. And I saw it and I was so overjoyed. And we printed it and started using it as our outdoor Bible and hitting some of the sites. And I teach grade 7, so my kids were loving kind of the outdoor experience and trying to somewhat replicate eco justice. I know that I've sent students there over the years, and always thought, oh, I wish I could do some of that in my class. So when your document showed up, I was like, oh my goodness, this is
Oh, that's so
right
great.
up our alley. So
I'm glad you shared that, Curtis, because sometimes I do things and I'm like, well, it's out in the universe. I don't know if anyone's going to benefit from it, but I've tried.
yeah, we did. That's for sure, Brian. Yeah, we have other teachers that are exploring. I think it's kind of catchy. Once someone starts exploring, all of a sudden other people start exploring with you. So we have a few teachers that are keen on getting out and trying things out. So it's pretty neat.
Great. Well, and so yeah, you can either direct them to, so it's under the teacher resource hub on the portal. It's lumped in with phys ed. I've tried fighting that, but to no avail. So you can access it there, or when you get the email with the PDF versions, you can also just forward those. I do find the one thing with printing off, like printing is definitely handy for like quickly glancing at things that are in the document or in the resource itself, but some things are links. So it is nice to have the digital format so that you can kind of get the full extent of the resource. So I guess my point is, feel free to email it if you think it would be easier for the teachers in your school to use. I am going to move on though. So barriers that are faced often, I think I have on the next slide. Let's just see here. So these are things we talked about a lot in the action research group. So things like weather. I mean, we all know, we've experienced it. The dreaded indoor recess makes it tougher to get outside with students. Lack of money. If you're doing things that require a bus, that becomes tricky. Not having enough time, curriculum constraints, so on. Like these are all familiar, I'm sure, with all of you. And so these are the things that we were thinking about. How do we overcome? What can we do proactively to kind of avoid these things stopping us from getting outside? And that's how this whole thing got started. So the first section, like I said, is kind of advice, tips and tricks for kind of getting ahead of the curve and making things more successful or move a little bit smoother. I'll just touch on maybe one as an example. So communication, this is kind of a, if I was to give, I don't know, I think they're all important, but if I was to say one thing that will just make your life easier is communicating way more than probably you want to, but that's how you get teachers on board, or sorry, parents on board, your students on board, your admin on board, your EAs on board, and so on, is letting people know in advance, hey, every Friday, we're going to be outside. If you're looking for us, we will be in the schoolyard. Or once a month, we're going to try to go on a field trip. And it's, it doesn't have to be the same day every month, but sometimes it helps if it is predictable. But more so than anything is just letting people know ahead of time. So I think in this, if you click on it, you can see it's just a little snapshot of advice, because I know too much reading and people are like, nope, moving on. That's how I am anyways. So what I recommend is, if you have an excursion planned, is to just make one email that you will send to families, but then you CC or BCC, depending on how you want to do it, your release teachers, your administrators, your office coordinators. Like, it only takes a second to throw an email address into the email so that everyone's getting it, and then no one's surprised, right? Because I've definitely, and I've learned this the hard way, had like EA show up to my classroom when we're going on field trip and be like, where is everybody? What am I supposed to be doing? Or what's the other one? OTs, occupational therapists, like if they were going to work with a student, like even them, if you have students working with OTs or working with LATs, you want to inform those people that you're going to be gone so that they're not annoyed. And also sometimes they might be able to help, right? Like, oh, I can actually send you that EA that was supposed to be in your classroom that time anyways. They could come help you on the field trip. They could be one of your supervisors. And same with like nutrition staff. If you need lunches for the day, if you're in a school that has some needs, then you want to make sure you give them a heads up, or you might be going without lunches, and that would make a pretty crappy field trip for those students that don't have food. So I always say one email, like a week or two in advance, put all your people that might be affected into it and send it off, and then they're in the loop. That's kind of the main one I like to talk about. And so again, here I'll just show you the hyperlinks. If I want to go back to that page, I click on the mushroom, and then there's all the other pieces of advice. I don't want to spend too much time talking about these things though, but they're there for you to peruse at your leisure. Okay, I know Curtis is there. Hopefully the others are also listening. I was going to make this a little game. Instead, it's a personal challenge just for being conscious of time. If you want to just think to yourself, what are kind of the 10, I picked 10, important things you need to consider when you're planning for an excursion. And I guess I'm thinking kind of more field trip away from the school, because of course, outdoor learning could also include your schoolyard. but I'm thinking maybe you're going a bit further. So if you want to just to yourself on your phone, on a piece of paper, think, what are the 10 things Nicole thinks are the most important? This is certainly subjective, so it's partially you need to read my mind. What do I think are the 10 most important things you need for planning a field trip? And just see if you can get the 10 that I've got. I can guarantee probably you won't get one, but maybe I'll be surprised. So I'll give you 1 minute to think to yourself, what are the key components for planning a field trip? I should have had some Jeopardy music. Not that fancy. My husband told me I didn't give him enough time yesterday, so I'm trying really hard to be patient. This is not a skill I have. Okay, according to my phone, it's been a minute, more or less. So give yourself a point if you've got any of these same components. Location, where are you going? Also considering the location itself, are you going to have everything you need? Are there washrooms nearby? If not, where's the closest place to access a washroom? Do you need a bus to get there? Is there access points? Is there a parking area if parents are going to have to drive to meet you? Is there going to be a cost associated with going to this place? Or is there a place to take shelter if things turn sour? So things to think about surrounding the location itself. Forms, dreaded forms. And this is certainly something, if you're not with GSCS, you'll want to clarify. I can speak to it if you have questions at the end. I can tell you exactly what forms officially are required. Typically permission form is needed. And unfortunately, I have clarified with our division, you do need a form for every field trip, which sucks. And child health forms as well. In theory, you're supposed to be getting updated for every field trip. That's a big bummer, but at least bring one set of the child health forms with you so that if worst case scenario, something happens, you have that information. And then sometimes you need to think about if you're doing a specific activity like skiing or swimming, those require specific permission forms. So yes, forms. Supervision, unfortunately, most teachers are in a one teacher classroom. That's the advantage we have with Eco-Justice, which makes it a little bit easier for us. But usually there's only one. So you're going to think about covering your bases for supervision. In GSCS, it's 1 to 15. You need one adult for 15 kids. For general field trips, if you're doing something like an overnight canoe trip, then you're going to need more. So again, this is kind of why communication is so important, because if you give people enough notice, you're more likely to get chaperones easier. Transportation, are you able to walk, bike? Can you take the free city bus? Or are you going to have to book a school bus? If you have to book a school bus, then you'll have to do that ahead of time and make sure it's confirmed. I swear I've had more problems with school bus than with any other form of transportation. So it's always my least favorite choice. I've had buses show up the wrong location, wrong time, wrong day. Usually you can problem solve if you have to, but I kind of like being able to control my own destiny. So I like biking or walking if I can. And the city transit actually has turned out to be not so bad. It's intimidating, but no one actually checks anything. So really, you could just show up to the stop with your students and get on the bus and you would be fine. In theory, you are supposed to book ahead of time, but you can get away with not. In Saskatoon, anyways, just to clarify, we can take city transit for free with the school group. Money, yes, if you're needing to book a school bus, then there will be a cost associated. If you're going somewhere like Saskatchewan, unfortunately, they do have a cost associated with going there or other places. So do you have the money? What are you going to be benefiting? What are the educational benefits you're getting from this space? What are you planning to do while you're there? Also thinking about pre-teaching and post-teaching. Is there something you might want to do to get them prepped, or how are they going to synthesize their learning afterwards? Communication, don't need to talk about that one anymore. Covered it. Weather, I check the forecast all the time. Not so much that I wouldn't go, although some things will get canceled if, for example, you have lightning. But more so just so that I can be prepared and students can be prepared. If it's going to be -40, we're still going, but we need to make sure that we're adequately dressed and that students are prepared and parents are prepared that we're still going even if it's cold. Gear, what are you bringing? What are you packing? What are the students bringing and packing? And this is the one I figured no one would get. Critical considerations. This is part of trying to honor being a treaty person, is trying not to enter a space and taking it over. I find that happens sometimes when you go on field trips. Kids are loud, they're not really aware of their surroundings, and they leave litter behind, or they're picking plants or so on. So trying not to colonize spaces when we go there. So I try to get kids to think responsibly before, or I try to push the idea of being responsible stewards of the land when we go somewhere, being respectful, how can we show reciprocity, those type of things. And so kind of getting the conversation going before we go. Oh, sorry, did anyone get 10 out of 10? Yeah, so those are kind of the main 10 I would point out to, but there's other things too. And so I have covered them in the resource. Sorry, this stupid, I can't decide where I want this bar. It's in my way. So I put the forms and supervision into division requirements, because that will depend on your division. And then otherwise, the other things I've kind of lumped into their own categories. And then there's also a checklist. So I would definitely recommend printing this off, and then it's easier for you to just quickly glance at it and see, okay, have I thought about all these things? I know it seems like a lot, but it's like quick stuff, right? Like this is packing. So hopefully, once you've packed once for a field trip, it won't take you as much time the second time. And then these are like the planning things. And it's linked to my Google Drive here, and you can download it. So I'll just head back to there. So that's planning an excursion. We do have time. I gotta talk faster, talk less, 1, 2. So the next section is locations around Saskatoon. So I want, again, I'll call on Leah if we get dead air again, but to consider your favorite outdoor spaces within Saskatoon and where you like to take kids. The picture I have here is from the Northeast Swale. And the reason I like to take kids there is because it's quite peaceful, and it really feels like you're getting out into nature itself, even though you're still just on the perimeter of the city. And so does anyone else have any places? Oh yeah, 6. That's pretty good, Chris. Any favorite places they like to take students in town that they want to share in Saskatoon, in and around Saskatoon? You can just post in the chat or unmute yourself, or I will wait the obligatory 20 seconds and then move on.
Oh. Hi. I should talk now. Hi, I'll talk again.
Thanks, Rose.
We were lucky at Sister O'Brien. We're 2 blocks from the Meewasin, so we've done a lot of exploring down the Meewasin, and thanks to your document, we found Factoria.
Nice.
And a couple places like that, and we've kind of created a little sacred space down by the river, a little gathering place where we often go. It's about a 10 or 15 minute walk from the school. It's kind of a starting point and gathering point, so that's been pretty special for us.
I think that's one of the most underutilized outdoor learning ideas, is finding somewhere within walking distance and then just going there a lot. I think people get this idea that outdoor learning has to be some grand field trip or canoe trip, or you're going long distances and you're going once and you're spending a lot of money usually on those field trips. I actually think there's more value in doing something close to home and doing it frequently, because then kids really have a connection to that space. And you can see the changes in the season, you can see the changes in the flora and the fauna and so on. So I think that's awesome, Chris. Actually, there's another teacher who does something similar, Anna Miller at St. George, does the same thing in the same area. I wonder if you guys will cross paths at some point, but she's got a little special spot down by the river too with her students. Oh, Sasko Outdoors is putting together some locations and lessons you can do there. Nice. Oh yes, lots of place for space. I do love that that resource. I think I have it listed somewhere, but yes, we should put more in there. Yeah, okay, so locations, back to the resource here. I organized geographically for Saskatoon, in and around Saskatoon. It is arbitrary though. I made the distinctions, what qualified as northwest, northeast. So you may, like if you're in the north end, you might find that maybe there's some stuff that you could reach in this southeast area. So you might want to look at a couple sections, but I just tried to highlight a few places. I mean, there's way more than this. I just kind of picked some of the bigger ones I could think of off the top of my head. I also did use the resource, A Guide to Nature Viewing Sites in and around Saskatoon. They have a lot of really good information in there. So I do want to give them credit. I did borrow some of their ideas. And then they're all linked to on the web, in maps. So you can easily find where they are, and then a little bit of a write-up about the space. And then hyperlink back to the starting point. One thing I will say is that this is definitely not an ending point. There is so much more. I wish I could have had time. Like I would have liked to have included also like things like community gardens, farmers markets, even like hills or skating rinks. Like these are all things you could easily access probably in your neighborhood. Hopefully you could easily access in your neighborhood that I would recommend using too. Okay, I gotta go faster, I think. Teacher backpack. So now it's like, what is that? I'm going on a bear hunt. I'm gonna catch a big one. I'm not scared. And then you have to have your tools. So you're going on a field trip. What are you packing? This is another personal challenge. See if you can get, I think I picked 10 items again. Kind of a very subjective. 10 is an arbitrary number as well. These are the top 10 I thought would be most important for a teacher to bring. You could definitely expand the list, and I have in the resource, but these are like the must-haves. So if you just wanted to like jot down the top 10 things you think a teacher needs to pack if they're heading, and this would be further afield. So you're not in the schoolyard. You're heading out somewhere a bit further, perhaps. See, this one would be easier maybe to guess the 10 things I've picked. Possibly. Okay, being cognizant of time, you get no time to think. Well, 30 seconds at least. I'll give you 10 more. All right, in my backpack, I put number 1, first aid kit. This one's kind of a non-negotiable, have to have it. Even if it's just filled with Band-Aids. I mean, I would encourage you to have more than that, but that's for sure something you will need. I do recommend supplementing with things that are more commonly used, like Band-Aids, polysporin, tweezers, that kind of thing. Student health items, that was just my way of lumping together things like EpiPens, inhalers, if you have a child who's diabetic, insulin. Depends on how you organize it in your classroom. If you have older students, they might be responsible enough to carry it themselves, but then I would always check with them. Do they have it actually on them in their backpack, and where is it? Because they can't help themselves. So if it's something emergency were to happen, or they might be able to help themselves, but like, for example, like severe anaphylactic shock, I need to be able to find that EpiPen. Otherwise, with younger students, I usually carry a backup set. And emergency contacts. So I always print out a spreadsheet of everyone's parents' phone numbers or guardians' phone numbers so that I can contact them in worst case scenario. The dreaded forms. The child health forms for GSDS you are supposed to carry in your backpack. It is actually, I guess, probably if you had those, you may not need an emergency contact sheet, but I just find it's easier to have all the numbers in just one page rather than having to flip through 20 pages, but oops. And then permission forms you don't need to have with you, but you need to have in your classroom, and you just need to have them. So making sure those are done. Charge cell phone. This only goes so far. If you're gone from the school for a full day somewhere without a place to plug in, your phone will likely die or potentially will die, but then you need to have a plan for that. So either you have a backup battery pack, or you keep your phone turned off for the majority of your trip, and you can only turn it on in case of emergencies. Or if you're going further afield, you might need something like a stat phone. Whistle, a way to get, it doesn't have to be a whistle, but something to get students back together that you could be heard over long distances. I'm pretty sure it has to be a whistle. I don't know what else you would use. Watch, cell phone dies, you need to know what time it is so that if you're meeting a bus, you don't miss it. School keys, not essential for the field trip, but essential for getting back, or helpful for getting back without having to bother someone to get back into your classroom. Wallet, this one I kind of debated. It's not necessarily the top thing. Maybe I shouldn't have put it on the list, but I have had scenarios where, for example, I took students to Batoche. This was actually last year, and it was like 35 in June. Remember how hot it was? It was like 35 above, and we were about to go on a 2-hour hike, and the student had not brought a water bottle. And their concession was open, and so I thought, you know what, instead of us walking all the way back to camp, which will delay us by a lot of time, I'm just going to buy him a water bottle, which goes against all my moral eco beliefs. but we need to get going. So it is sometimes handy to have access to money. And then same kind of topic there, backup food and water. I usually carry an extra water bottle for that reason. That day I hadn't, or maybe I wasn't willing to share because I was really pregnant. So I was maybe just feeling like, no, I'm not sharing my water. And also COVID. And then some backup food. So like a couple granola bars or something, so that if somebody was getting low blood sugar or feeling kind of faint or whatever, you have something. Being careful that no nuts, that kind of thing. But so those are my not random. It was thoughtful, but probably the top 10 things I would say is essential for a good or a safe field trip, especially. Did anybody get 10 out of 10? It would be a little bit tough probably to get 10 out of 10 because some things are like a wallet, maybe not totally necessary, but Curtis got 7. All right. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay. So then on the next page, what I just talked about is here under teacher backpack. And so I kind of have the recommended things up, or sorry, the must-haves up top, and then recommended. So these would be additional things you may consider wanting to take. Actually, I think I moved some things around, but generally some things you would want to consider packing. And then there's also what should students be packing, you know, thinking about clothing for the different types of weather, tools you might want to bring, what's available within our division. Lots of people don't know we have quite a bit of interesting things that you can borrow just through the division that no one knows are there. Gear lending organizations like Sask Outdoors has items that are available for lending to members. So you would have to get a membership, but there's some pretty cool things like, I think there's bird watching kits, and there's a bit of camping gear and some other things like that. So definitely worth checking out. And then the grab and go bag was like a real hit with the Action Research Group. This is especially pertinent for younger grades, I find, but older grades certainly can do it too. But it's just having like one dedicated backpack that you just leave packed and ready to go for outdoor learning. So not necessarily, I mean, it could be for field trips, but it could also just be, the weather's nice, let's head outside, grab my grab and go bag, and I've got everything ready to go. It's got a first aid kit, it's got some tools, you know, has Swiss Army knife, like whatever kind of things that you use regularly when you go outside, just having it packed and ready to go. So that's gear. I think I'm a little behind, so we might skip this one. Unless people are really excited, they can tell me their top tool in the chat. I just wanted people thinking about what is it that you already use that's awesome, might be inspiring someone else. This is my top tool. I've used it from K to, oh gosh, probably higher than probably K to 12, really. It's a bug catcher. It's very simple plastic container. You can get a Dollarama, or you can get nicer ones. I think they're available through the Outdoor Learning store. Usually they have a magnifying, or if they're a nice one, they have a magnifier on the top. So it makes whatever you're collecting look bigger, clearly. You guys know what a magnifying glass is. And they're just, I don't know, they're just a way of giving you something focused to do while you're outside. So you're collecting insects, or you're collecting rocks, or you're collecting whatever, and here's a place to store it. So this is my top tool. Did anyone have a top tool that they like to use? If you wanted to put in the chat, you can do so. I am going to move on though. Resources. So this one, I'm not going through all of it. I think I highlighted like 20 things I wanted to show you. It's like, that's too much. So we'll just look at a few. But I do, honestly, I only put stuff in here if I thought it was good, if there was value to it. I don't, sometimes we get so many resources as teachers, you just want to like give up. It's just like, you know, close the website or close the book, and it's just like, I can't filter through it all. So I tried to just pick the top stuff. Yes, so I'll just, now I'm going to just show you the top of the top. So cheat sheets, this was something I worked on with Nuwasan. And they are like little, well, actually, I think I opened one to show you. So if I can navigate my screen here. Here we go. So this one was actually made by Sam Gunn. Her and I work together. She's like she is the top outdoor learning guru in the public school division. And so her and I teamed up and we made some resources with Meewasin, and this was one of them. So it would be, in theory, you would have this printed out on little cards, and then you could take them outside and give you some talking points when you're outside with students, give you some things to look for, connecting to curriculum and content. Because sometimes I know that, and this was something the group said, you feel not knowledgeable enough. Like if you don't have a science background or a social studies background, you kind of think like, what do I do when I'm out there? What do I talk about? I don't know this stuff. So these are just some talking points. And there are, I think there's 5, and then there's more to come. Erica Meyer and Erica works for Meewasin. Her and I worked on a couple more this summer. They're just getting finalized, but they should be available in the spring. So if you check out Meewasin's website, they have all their educational resources. You just have to fill out a little form, and then they send you all the resources. So just maybe check back with them in the spring for the ones that are coming. So cheat sheets. Oh, from current slide. No. Okay, that's all right. I can navigate quickly down the side here too. Oh no, I'm going to use my navigation tools. Resources. Go. Go. There we go. So that's the cheat sheets there. So these are the ones that are completed: animal cheat sheets, aquatic, so on. If you have early years, these seasonal scavenger hunts are really awesome. CBC put them together. They're on their website. They're all pictures. I'm just checking the time, so I'm not going to go to all of them, but they're really nice, and they're easy for little kids to use because there's pictures. Meewasin also has put some together. I've noticed they've posting on social media. They have some nice picture scavenger hunts as well. Summary sheets. So these are just, again, kind of things to look for when you're outside. Birds Canada you can put a location and a time of year, and they tell you which birds you're most likely to see in your area. So I just put together the ones that for Saskatoon during the fall, summer, winter, spring, whatever the seasons are. And so those are linked here, and you can find those. If you're looking for plants, if you're looking for aquatic vertebrates, here's some other things that you might want to use. Again, they're just little kind of summary sheets to help you when you go outside to identify things. I'm not going to go through, oops, sorry. I'm going to go, oh Lord, there. And then exploring nature with children, again, early years, lots of great ideas for activities to get outside. This Grasslands guide was somebody's master's project, and I feel like it's so underutilized and it's so sad. There's really good activities for K to 8 for getting outside. And they have, supplementary, like ways to extend the learning, like and songs and all sorts of stuff that connects, and it's pretty user friendly, I think. So anyways, I've linked it here because it's free and it's available. There's printed versions in, I think, most school libraries. People don't know they're there. There's also a digital version, so I've linked it here if you wanted to check it out. Sorry, I think it's going to take too long for me to follow all the links, which is why I'm not showing you, but I'm kind of tempted to show you. So there's a couple of things here, but this is the one I was talking about, the Saskatoon Grasslands guide. It has all sorts of, it's a huge document. This was a mistake. It's going to take too long. Anyways, but it has, oh no, lesson plans and ideas. There we go. So K to 8, they have these like random themes, but they have like, here's some information, or sorry, here's some things you can do on this theme with kindergarten and so on. And they have all sorts of great ideas. So something worth checking out. And apps. Apps are so great. Most students, have phones, which is super annoying as a teacher. However, it can also be really helpful. So if you get them to add these apps, which are all free, it's a way of exploring outside without having to worry about knowing everything, right? Because then they can just do the exploring themselves. Oh, I found a plant. I don't know what it is. Take a picture, look it up on iNaturalist, or this nature companion. Like, I am going to go to this because this is my favorite thing lately. Eco-friendly Sask, Andrew and Penny McKinley, I think are their names. They put together this website, which is also available offline. So if you go to like the question mark here, it shows you how to like get it on your phone so that if you don't have Wi-Fi, you can still access it, which is so key. And they've done a really great job of, I don't know where to put this toolbar, of organizing by these categories of things that you would likely see in your area. So just at the top, you pick Sask. So you're out in a boat and you can just like, oh, I saw a blue bird. And then you like scroll through here. Oh, maybe it was a blue jay. And then, you know, and here's some information on blue jays. It's the best. I really like it. It's kind of the same idea as the cheat sheets, but it's just, I guess, a digital format. Anyways, check this out. This thing is awesome. And I'm clearly not talking about everything, but I do recommend everything I've included in here. Maybe over February break, if you have a spare hour, it might be worth looking through, checking out the things. People have just done really cool stuff. Going Outside 101 was a professional development that, her name is escaping me. She put together for Saskatoon Outdoors though. So you probably know her name. Oh, I see in the chat there's things I'm missing. Marissa, yes. Really great little PD she put together. She organized based by the months of the year and gave suggestions for activities that you could do. And it's organized as a PowerPoint as well. So it's just bite size. It's not overwhelming. It's not like a textbook you have to read. She did a really nice job. LBL journals. Sorry, I'm just seeing the comments now. What is the LBL journal?
Oh, that's just what we named it, land-based learning. They wanted to call it, the kids. So
nice.
we just bring it, and then kids could journal in it, or write poetry, or write a reflection, whatever. Just have it with us all the time.
Such a good point, and really, that's like the main thing that EcoJustice does. Everyone's got a journal. You bring it everywhere. Put all your learning in one spot. Yeah, it's great. You really don't. Tech can be handy. Sometimes it's a burden. Sometimes it's nice just to go, you know, paper and pen for sure. Yeah, so Marissa put together this great resource as well. I think these things are all really big, so I'm not going to open them anymore, but I do recommend checking them out. Engaged Student, another awesome outdoor educator, Chris Clark, is hardcore, and he does all sorts of stuff around outdoor learning, and he loves to provide resources for people. And so he has a website now where he's constantly adding new activities. Okay, this one I'm going to go to too. I mean, they're all great. How do you not go to all of them? I'm just like, oh God, I have 2 minutes. Maybe I won't go to it. But check it out. He also has a really good book, which I think I referenced later on, called All Aboard. You would have to buy it from him, and the information's in here. But he has so many great team building activities that you can do that are outdoors that are really good about getting kids like amped up for being out there. In case you have a group that's like a little leery about outdoor learning, I don't know. Lots of fun like games he's organized in one spot. So books, as I mentioned, the Stewart Resources Library actually has a lot of great outdoor learning resources. So you can borrow them for free. So if you were looking for some resources, check them out. Early years, this 50 Fantastic series is really good. It's like one page, one picture, a couple sentences, great idea. Next page, same idea, and then there's 50 of them. So they're really easy to use. All Aboard is the one I just mentioned that Chris Clark put together. I think it was part of his master's. Or he just did for fun. That's also possible. Any type of field guide or pocket guide, I really like. I put some pictures down here. They're a little bit heavy. Kids sometimes complain if you're carrying too many, but again, it's a way of kids self-teaching, and I think it's more valuable that way when they can find something and then figure out what it is on their own. It kind of cements learning a bit better than me just telling them what it is. So I do recommend, and usually these school libraries have them. I've discovered this. Most school libraries have a set of field guides, so why not take advantage of them? Recommended organizations, Saskatoon Outdoors. Also, I see that we have a representative from Meewasin, so I should have highlighted Meewasin as well. But also great programming. I've mentioned Meewasin has like lots of educational resources that I help work on, available on their website. They also have lots of programs and even like social media stuff they've been doing lately, which is cool. And if you can sign up to get their email, it's helpful. Same with Saskatoon Outdoors, sign up for the email, and then you can find out all the great things that they're doing. I mentioned a few of these things, but they have like gear you can borrow, and then also there's funding available through them, and lots of resources. I am out of time, so I have to just carry on. Oh, there's so many things I wanted to talk about. I'm going to do one just because we missed a whole section, and this is probably the part that everybody wanted to look at, is the curriculum-based activities. So I will just go over for 5 minutes here. If people will humor me just to highlight kind of how this works. If somebody wanted to just pick a grade and a subject, I'll just pull up like one or two just to show you what we have in here. So I'm going to wait super awkwardly long time until somebody in the chat or out loud tells me a grade and a subject. And then we will look at that activity. Thank you, Chris. Grade 7 math. All right. Moving to grade 7. So obviously you can tell I don't have all the subjects. I was, trying not to go too crazy. So I just picked 6 areas that I found work well. But of course, you can also do stuff for health. You could also do stuff for religion, if that's part of your division. But these are ones I focused on. Math, integer game. Oh, this is fun. So this is just the outcome if you wanted to see how it's actually connected to curriculum. Otherwise, the icon is the activity. Oh, connecting to server. This could be fun. Is it going to work? You can do it. If it doesn't pull up, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. Yes. So you would make a number line outside. So I've done this with students before. Just take random rope. You could use a skipping rope if you had to, and just tie it, between a couple trees or something. You would have to make these tent cards ahead of time, but then it's a game where you're trying to, I can't remember, it's been a while, but I think you're trying to guess what the magic number is, or you're trying to hit the target number. And so based on playing cards, you try to like add and subtract integers until you eventually get to the target number. This guy explains it better than I do, but it is something you could do outside and get some fresh air while you're doing it. I've also added in running to this game. I can't remember how, but just to kind of get some physical activity in it too. So that's an activity for math for grade 7. And back to the resource. I'm only going to do one more because I know we are over time. If somebody would pick a grade and a subject, we'll take a look at one more. While I'm awkwardly waiting, I am just going to also mention that there is also great stuff for high school. I didn't create this. This was Sam Gunn. She made this. Her and I worked on this, some of these activities for Meewasin. So these were some things that she made for them, and they're really awesome lesson ideas and activity ideas that are also linked to curriculum for the upper grades. So I know high school is much tougher to do things outside, but it is possible. Sam has done it. And I need a subject and a grade, and then we can move on. Lost my cursor. Curtis, I know you're itching to tell me one because you're my answerer. Oh, Nick. All right. Thank you. Kindergarten science. Okay. I taught kindergarten for 5 years. I have a sweet spot for it. Didn't think I'd ever end up that young, whatever. But it was fun. Okay. Kindergarten science. Oh, bird food balls. Okay. So I always want to click this. I should have set this up different. This is the curriculum. The icon is the activity. So this one I put together for Meewasin, and it would be, so you could set it up as like a center where you have lard and bird food. You have to be careful though like seeds and things. Just be careful if you have nuts or if you have allergies in your class, you get one without nuts. And anyway, so you could let them kind of play with it for a while. It's essentially just making like Timbits, squishing lard and bird seed together. And then you can set it up around your yard, your schoolyard. And I'd like to make like a hiding spot, like what is the word? Blind. And then you kind of hide behind it and you see if the birds come and, check out your bird food balls in the wintertime. And then there's some extensions here and resources. There's so many good resources for birds. Anyway, so that would be the suggestion for science kindergarten.